I asked ChatGPT in the beginning of this episode, what are the benchmarks for an effective SaaS sales process? And of course, just like ChatGPT always does, it came back with a really great answer. If your SaaS sales process is dialed in, then you will see a win rate of 20 to 30%. That's a solid win rate, meaning 20 to 30% of the deals that you're in, the people that you're meeting, they will turn into customers. Now, this is where it gets super interesting. ChatGPT also said, if you have everything dialed in, if you have your SaaS sales process truly dialed in, then the elite level, you should be winning anywhere from 30 to 50% of your deals. Meaning you could get to a point, and I've seen this for my clients and my own businesses, you could be winning 50% of the deals that are coming in, 50% of the meetings that you're actually in. Here's the big question. What goes into an effective SaaS sales strategy? Again, you can ask ChatGPT and it will quote Sandler, it will quote Challenger Sale, it'll give you 8 components, but it won't tell you exactly how to really tweak the key pieces in your SaaS sales strategy. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 3 principles you absolutely need to know on how to develop an effective SaaS sales strategy. First, I'm going to walk you through the 3 principles on how to turn a meeting into a real customer in your SaaS sales strategy. Then I'm going to explain how to actually increase your win rates to get to that elite level. And then finally, I'm going to teach you exactly how to win your deals faster. So you're gonna be winning more, you're gonna be winning them faster. And when you implement these principles to develop your SaaS sales strategy, say that 2 times fast, you will be able to accelerate your path to the next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help AI and SaaS founders like you grow your business faster with an unstoppable strategy. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your AI and SaaS business faster. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon, and you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with TK Energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of my AI, SaaS, go-to-market coaching programs, my people, welcome back. Really awesome to see you over here. For my last company, ToutApp, we pioneered the sales engagement space. And we started off with a product-led motion because I'm an engineer and I hate sales and I don't want to talk to people. So I engineered the whole process where you could sign up for the product, swipe your credit card, and that did really well. We got to $1 million in ARR with 6 people on the team and we were doing great. But pretty soon we realized sales engagement, which is now a $5.2 billion category, is needed by the largest sales organizations. So we added on an entire sales team and a sales process on top of that. Through that journey, we scaled ToutApp. I raised from the likes of Andreessen Horowitz, Jackson Square Ventures, Founder Collective, and we scaled the company. We started to create this category, and then we sold the company to a market leader called Marketo. At Marketo, I joined as their SVP of strategy. I joined their executive team. And over there, I learned even more about building a solid SaaS sales strategy. Marketo was at nearly 450 million in ARR. And I helped with the sales strategy in Europe, Australia. I got to tour Japan. And on top of that, I even learned how to develop the partner sales strategy in North America. Through that journey, we did a 2-year transformation at Marketo, and we sold it to Adobe for $4.75 billion. Fast forward to today, under my current company, Unstoppable, I've worked with hundreds of founders on their SaaS sales strategy and their go-to-market strategy. We've given out a trophy every single time someone's hit a revenue milestone, and we've helped hundreds of founders transform their go-to-market strategy and their sales strategy to drive growth. So in this episode, I'm going to take everything that I've learned through that entire journey. I'm going to look at exactly what's working today. I'm going to walk you through the key principles you need to know on how to develop your effective SaaS sales strategy. I'm going to walk you through the 3 principles. Then we're going to talk about how to increase your win rates based on that strategy. And then also we're going to talk about how to actually win deals faster. All of this is important to actually drive growth. So if you're excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's dig right into it. Now, our goal here is to develop a sales strategy where for every meeting, 20 to 50% of them or more, and I have seen higher in some cases, we're actually turning into a real customer. As you are getting meetings, the biggest thing that we really need to be thinking about is that first call. That's the first principle that you really need to architect and design for your sales strategy. The biggest mistake I see founders make is they treat and they call the first call as the demo call. But really, it's actually not the demo call, it's your discovery call. And when you start really dig into all the sales books, you start to have deep conversations in the middle of the night in a dark room with ChatGPT on SaaS sales strategy, it's really going to break it down into two schools of thought. The first school of thought is the Sandler training, and the second school of thought is the Challenger sale. These are the two prevailing methods that are really working in technology sales today. Ultimately, they all come down to this one call and how you structure it. And whether you go Sandler or you go Challenger, there are nuances between the two, but the thing that they do agree on is that during your first call, it's less about showing the solution and your actual product and the demo and your million features, but it's more about focusing on the customer. And that's why the first principle that you really want to understand is what is your discovery call and how do you structure it? A lot of times you think that sales and selling, and I thought this as Baby TK when I first started out, is about telling the customer how amazing you are. But having worked with some of the best salespeople, having learned from some of the best sales leaders, having been in incredible sales organizations, having coached hundreds of founders on how to embrace founder-led selling, the biggest unlock that I had and the biggest unlock that I teach founders is your first call is less about showing them, but really asking more questions. The more questions you ask and the more they speak, the higher your win rate is going to be. I'm going to repeat that because it's so powerful. The more questions you ask and the less you speak, and the more they answer questions and the more they speak, the higher your win rate is going to be. So if you kind of look back to that ChatGPT question that I had, and I love looking up benchmarks and frameworks and all those things, and I always compare to what I know and I correlate. If you look back at those benchmarks, it said the elite levels go anywhere from 30% to 50% win rates. And it all starts with the discovery. It all starts with asking questions to really understand what is going on in your customer's world that prompted them to meet with you. Are they a real decision maker? Do they have a real problem? What else have they tried? Why have they failed? And how long have they been dealing with this? And are they the right person to make this decision? Or are they the type of person that's just going around filling out forms and meeting with people just to call it work so they don't have to do their real work? And believe it or not, that exists. Tire kickers really do exist. I know this in every single business that I've been part of, including right here in Unstoppable. The first thing that you really want to understand and develop in your SaaS sales strategy is how you run that first call. When you're turning pipeline into an actual meeting and you're getting on a call, whether it's a Zoom call or in person, you want to call it your discovery call, and you really want to be speaking less, asking questions, and having them speak more, and write everything down so you can really understand whether they really have a problem and they really need your solution. And this is super counterintuitive because there's a lot of salespeople that are men, they're like, look, I'll sell anybody. And believe it or not, they're not the ones that make a ton of money. The ones that make a ton of money are the ones that get on a discovery call and they're just sitting there and asking the questions, and they're very quick to drop shitty deals. And they keep opening up their calendar for the deals that are going to move. And therefore, they spend all their energy, all their time on high ICP, high fit deals, and therefore they make more money. Principle number one is to really structure your discovery call and ask the questions to really understand the pain, whether they're the right fit, whether they're the actual decision maker, what their process is, what they've tried, and to really establish under that conversation on whether you can actually help them or not using your technology solution, consulting solution, hybrid solution, forward deployed agent solution, whatever you want to call it. It's getting a little blended these days in SaaS, whatever you want to call it. You really are trying to understand if you can actually help solve their problem and how urgent and important that their problem is. One of the things I will say with the discovery call is don't be afraid to say, hey, listen, I just don't think we can help you, and just end the call, because you're better off doing that early and making room for better ICP, better fit deals instead of chasing down a deal that's just not going to go anywhere. The first principle is defining your discovery call and how you actually run it. Now, some people ask, hey, TK, do I run through a pitch deck or do I have a sales deck? You should absolutely have a sales deck. Your sales deck is your core narrative. It's your manifesto. It should explain why you exist, what the big transformation is, what you're bringing to the world. It should explain how you are 10 times better than the competition. But what you don't want to do on this discovery call is just go in and start going through the deck, and then in the end, asking if they want to buy. You will lose that deal. So you should have the deck. But I always think about the discovery call as a third. A third of the call is asking a ton of questions. A third of the call is me talking to them, parroting back what I've learned and explaining to them why we think they're a fit. And a third is defining next steps. Speaking of next steps, you should never exit the discovery call without a next step. Whether it's the next meeting, or you're gonna send them something, or they're gonna come back to you, you should be very clear. You should spend the last third of that call really figuring out what next steps are going to be. Okay, so that's principle number one. Principle number two is where you get to the actual demo. Now, my channel right now has over 500 episodes, and I've done probably 10 episodes over the years on how to structure your demo and how to think about your demo. So I won't go into the details of that here. We'll link to it below so you can check it out as well. The demo is actually not difficult if you are actually thinking about your strategic narrative in the right way. The demo becomes super easy. There's no one weird trick for a demo, but there is the right way to do it, but it's built off of your messaging and your strategic narrative. But I will say with the demo, the biggest thing you don't want to do is, again, this comes from me being a technical founder. I thought that the more cool features I would show them, the quicker they were going to buy and not go with our competitor. But it turns out that's wrong. People don't really want to use software, and this is true more than ever before. If you're thinking about what's happening in AI, if you're an AI company and you go to a traditional SaaS company's customer and you say, hey, listen, you never have to log into the software again. You just put in our agent, it'll just do the work for you. You like literally don't have to do anything. They're going to jump. They're going to be like, oh my God, that would be incredible because I really don't want to do that. Like no one wants to actually log into the software. So the more features you show, the more complicated your demo, the longer your demo goes, the more they're like, oh my God, I gotta use all this. And even more importantly, they're thinking like, I gotta set all this up. Am I gonna be able to set it up? So the demo should be a simple path to explain that you've got the right loop. Think about what the inputs are and what the result is for your software platform and really cover those two things. That's the gist of like the 10 videos I have on demos. So I just gave you the primer so you don't even have to watch it. And then you wanna listen. And they will ask questions like, oh, do a backflip. And you're like, oh, absolutely, it does do a backflip. Let me show you how the backflip works. But before you show it, you ask them like, well, can you tell me a little bit around why the backflip is important? Because again, that's part discovery to understand why it's important to them. And then you can cater that feature in a very specific way for them. They might actually say, like, actually, we're on a platform right now and we hate it that it does backflips. We never want to do a backflip ever again. In fact, if it's automated, we're better off. In fact, if you don't have any concept of a backflip, it'd be amazing. You see how that's different? Where you were like, oh, let me show you our backflip feature. But in reality, they hate backflips. So you should always ask why they care about a feature and then show it. So the biggest thing with the demo is you want to make sure that you are giving the overall loop, and then you are asking them questions, and then you're showing specific features that they ask for it after you've understood why they care about it. And then you want to figure out what next steps are. Again, the same rule, you want to think about it as a third. So you want to show the demo, you want to ask the questions, and then you want to figure out next steps. So that's how you want to do it. I always follow a third for all of these rules. So that's your demo. And the next steps at this point becomes, hey, like, where are you in the process? What does buying look like? What's your timeline? What's a good next step? Do you want me to send you over a proposal? Are there other people that we need to book a call with? You can kind of figure out the next step. Now, I've worked with founders that are selling to SMBs in a sales process. I've worked with founders that are selling to the enterprise. I've worked with founders that have done an average contract value of $1.2 million. And I've worked with founders that have an average contract value of $3,000, which is terrible because you should not have a sales process at $3,000. You will not have a business. So we actually revamped their pricing strategy to get them more towards $10,000 to $15,000, which is kind of a minimum for a sales process to really work. 20K is really where you want to get to. But anyway, the point in this is I've worked with founders that are in different segments of the market. That's important. And the sales process does vary because from this demo to this next step, you could go to an infinite number of demos and an infinite number of meetings in an enterprise cycle. Whereas if it's an SMB cycle, it could be a one-call close. You could do the discovery and the demo in one call. This is where the nuances matter. This is where like it really depends on your ideal customer profile, on your messaging, your competition. And when I'm working with founders, we really look at the chessboard to understand and apply my experience and judgment to understand like, okay, well, these are the core principles. How do we apply it to your business? And given the competition you have and the type of buyer you have and how they buy. And that's how we architect the sales process. The components are there for every company, but they slightly vary on the implementation depending on whether you're SMB or mid-market or enterprise, you're selling to healthcare or you're selling to legal or you're selling to venture-backed technology companies. So it will vary slightly even though the pillars are the same. But the second principle in this is you really want to figure out how your demo is structured, how that call is structured, and what that next step is going to be. And part of that next step is really crafting what the offer is going to be, what the pricing is going to be, and how you structure it. So you can share it with them at the end of the call, and then you can send it to them, customizing it for them, and make sure that you have next steps. Now, before I go to the third principle where we dig into, well, how do we get them into a customer after we've done the demo and we've sent them some sort of a proposal or an offer, let me pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? The thing is, there are these key components that go into a SaaS sales strategy. A lot of these components are also built on top of your go-to-market strategy. I feel like a lot of phrases get thrown around these days between go-to-market and sales and marketing. In my mind, sales plus marketing equals go-to-market. So those are the two pieces. And there's also a little bit of a delineation because there's a question of, well, how many meetings do we have? And do we have enough meetings? And then once you get into these meetings, have you had enough of them to really develop the sales process based on the data that you have and the people and what they're saying? This is why I try to break it down into the core components. And then once we have it laid out, we can say, okay, cool, how do we apply it to your business? If you're seeing the power in this and actually breaking these pieces down and then starting to make decisions, if you're getting excited about revamping your SaaS sales strategy, can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. Also, one more thing. I have nearly 500 episodes and I've been doing this for a while and I'm in the trenches with founders just like you on implementing all of this. There's one of two kinds of people that watch my channel. There's one kind that really is gonna watch all 500 of my episodes and they're gonna try and figure it out. And that's totally fine. That's why I got to 500 episodes and I get to do this. There's another kind where it's like, TK, can I just get the step-by-step framework to do this? Can I work with you to actually apply this for my specific business? Can I get some AI tools to actually fast track this? And can I work with you to just get results faster? If you're that kind of person where you just want results faster and you want the step-by-step process to just follow at my guidance, then I encourage you to check out my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll link to it in the description below. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this episode. Let's go to principle number 3. Principle number 3 is, okay, you've done the demo and you're starting to get into some sort of a next step. And at some point with enough of these demo meetings or enough of these conversations, you're going to get to like a proposal and you've sent the proposal. That's kind of where you're at. And you should always have a next step, right? And there should be a next meeting. The next meeting and this next phase, and this is where it gets abstracted a little bit between SMB, mid-market, and enterprise. But fundamentally, what's really happening is you are negotiating and you are handling objections. And at the end of the day, objections are really the biggest thing in the sales process. Everyone thinks it's like, hey, what are all the reasons you should say yes to us? But the best salespeople don't think that way. What they're really thinking about is what are all the reasons they're going to say no? And let me get ahead of that. They're really thinking about, hey, like, I want this deal. I want them to become a customer. I know they have the problem. I figured that out in the discovery. I know we have the exact features they want and why they care about it and the differentiation that we want. I know I sent them the right proposal, highlighting those, and I have the right price and I'm competitive in the market. Maybe I'm actually more expensive than the rest, but I'm giving them the rightful solution. The next step is not, how do I get them to say yes? The next step is like, what are the objections that they have? And that's your next meeting. That's your next part, next component of the sales strategy. Now, in a mid-market deal, this is probably the third meeting where you say, hey, I'm gonna send the proposal. Can we put a time on the calendar to actually review it together? And you review it together and you're really trying to find the objections and you're negotiating around it. For lower end SMB deal, like a small business deal, if you have like a one call close, it's really over email after you send the proposal and you kind of are pushing towards a second meeting, but you may not need it because they'll sign. So it just depends. It depends on your deal size also. And it's also like super interesting because it depends on the size of business you're selling to. If you're selling into a super tiny business and you're a 20K deal, that 20K is probably one of the biggest purchases they've ever made. So it's gonna be way more work. Whereas if you're selling into the enterprise and you're a 20K deal, they're probably like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. Just send me the wire transfer information. So it does vary a little bit, but you still go through these steps. The biggest step that you wanna be thinking about for number 3 is what are the objections? You wanna look at your deals and you wanna ask, what is the main reason they would say no to us and how do we get ahead of that? What have we heard? And this is where AI comes in super helpful. I recommend for every founder that I'm working with to have an AI agent that's looking through the transcripts and really digging out, did they follow the steps? Did they ask the right questions? What do we learn and what are the objections? And whenever I'm working with a founder and we're working on their sales process, that's the first section I go to. I'm like, what are the objections? Like, what are we hearing in the market? What's the reason we're not gonna get this deal? And let's talk about that. And sometimes that's something to do in the sales process. Other times it's something we have to do on the marketing side to get ahead of it, or something we have to do on the product side to actually fill a gap. So it's valuable information to understand what the objections are. And the reality is, you solve enough of these objections, then you've negotiated your way into a customer, and then you have won the deal. And again, this can all happen in 1.5 calls, or it could take 12 months, depending on the enterprise sales process that you're running. And I've worked with founders with both type of businesses, but fundamentally, these are the 3 things that have to happen every single time. You have to do a discovery to really understand and evaluate if this is the right customer for you, which I know is counterintuitive. You're not selling them. You're trying to figure out, hey, are you good enough to be on my platform? Will we actually add value? Or are you just gonna churn out, or are you never gonna buy and you're wasting my time and you actually don't even need my solution? The second is then you wanna do the demo. And again, more features lowers your win rate. So you really wanna show the core loop. And then you wanna ask them, and they'll ask about features. You wanna ask, what is it about that feature that you're looking for? And they might hate it or they might love it. And then you show that feature. And then you get into the next step, send the proposal and the offer. And again, there's a whole piece around what does the offer and the proposal look like, and how do you price it? And how do you get them to just say yes? Make it easy to say yes. And then you get into the objection handling and the negotiations to actually win the deal. Those are the 3 key pieces that go in. Now, those are the 3 principles. Let's talk about the bonus pieces that I really wanted to highlight for you. The first bonus piece I wanted to highlight is how do you actually increase win rates? There's 2 points that I really want to give you on this one. Remember, with ChatGPT, when I asked it, and I kind of circled this in red because this was the best part, 20 to 30% solid and 30 to 50% is elite, the win rate. Why? How do you actually increase your win rate? So if you're at like 10%, you want to get to 20%, or you're at 20%, you want to get to 30, or you're at 30%, you're like, TK, I want to get to that 50%. How do I do this? So this is something that I tried looking at it different ways, and this is where like experience and judgment goes a lot farther than AI does in these days. AI plus experience and judgment works even better. And that's why I love using AI, because I have my experience, I have my judgment, I have my pattern recognition across multiple companies, and I bring that to AI and I'm able to get to an answer even faster. One of the things I always highlight is like, ChatGPT will give you an answer. And then you can say like, yes, but, and you give some unique piece of information that you have, and it'll give you a totally different answer. You're like, oh my God, you're totally right. And you're like, holy, I was just gonna take you for your word. It doesn't know, like you have to give it enough context. There's 2 pieces of context that you need to understand on how to get to those elite win rates. The first piece of context that you need to understand is the balance between marketing versus sales. This is one of the things that ChatGPT is like, hey, elite level is 30 to 50%, right? It does tell you that. And a lot of founders will just look at that and never watch this video and like, oh my God, we gotta get to 50%. But what it doesn't tell you, to get to that 30 to 50% and even upwards of 80%, it needs to be an inbound lead. Meaning, if it's an outbound lead, like you cold email prospected into them and you gave them a $50 gift card to take a meeting with you, you're not gonna get a 20% win rate. If you do, it's pretty impressive. You're probably gonna get like a 10 to 15% win rate. And that is on top of a 1.2% response rate on a cold email campaign. However, if you do inbound, if they're inbound leads coming to you and you're nurturing them and they're seeing your content, they're seeing your case studies, they're on your nurture sequence, they're seeing your retargeted ads, by the time they meet with you, there's a lot more trust. They know a lot more about your solution. They may have even gone to your website and looked through and clicked through a bunch of things. In fact, they probably did. They probably went to ChatGPT and asked around. They probably looked at their communities. But now you're in the game, even though you haven't talked to sales yet. Because of that, that's marketing. And that increases the amount of meetings that you're gonna get if you invest right in the marketing versus just going to events and meeting people one-on-one, that's sales, or doing sales development. There's a reason it's called sales development. It's one-to-one, even though you're blasting it, but because you're blasting it, it's basically ineffective marketing. That's why it's a 1.2% response rate. You wanna think about your mix between marketing and sales. The more powerful your marketing, the easier the sale. The more powerful the marketing, the more they trust you, the more they know about you by the time they show up to a meeting, therefore the easier the sale. But if they've never heard of you and the only thing they got was a cold email and now they're on a meeting with you, you as a salesperson or your salespeople have to do the entire heavy lifting of marketing on a one-on-one basis to build that trust, get them to like you, and then actually share enough information so you can understand where they're at. Because if you start off the call with like, hey, thanks for booking this call. What's going on in your world? Like, why'd you book this call? They're like, I don't know, dude. You emailed me. You said that I had to show up to this thing and I'd get a gift. So here I am. And the dynamics are all off. So the first way to really increase your win rates is to invest more in marketing, because inherently, one, you're just going to get more meetings. You're going to get more pipeline, and they're going to be more trusted. They will know about you. They'll already have been educated by marketing in a one-to-many basis. Therefore, by the time they enter the sales process, you're going to be a lot more successful. So that's the first thing. The other thing to understand with marketing versus sales is there's this rule of what we call pipeline coverage. Pipeline coverage is if you say you have a 100K goal, you want to generate $100,000 of net new revenue, then you actually need 5x pipeline. That's just like the rule of averages. Like you need 5x, so you need 500K of pipeline. And when you start thinking about those numbers, it becomes way harder to generate that level of pipeline to land 100K of revenue if you don't have some marketing. So you want to get some leverage. So that's the first one on how to actually increase win rates. So I was working that with founders. I work with a lot of founders that have gotten to even pretty impressive revenue numbers just on sales, but they're capped. They're like, TK, I need to hire more bodies and go to more events. Otherwise, I just won't get pipeline. So I need marketing. I don't have any marketing. So that totally happens. The second thing you need to understand to increase win rates is to have pipeline discipline. And this is something that it's super obvious, but not enough people do it. One of the things that I teach founders when I'm working with them on their sales strategy and their go-to-market strategy is I tell them to set up a Monday and a Thursday meeting. We call it a pipeline review meeting. It could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour. If you're just the only salesperson, do it with your co-founder. If you don't have a co-founder and it's just you, do it with your AI friend. I don't know, like you got to do it. But really more importantly, it's like do it with your team. If you're kind of at scale, then do it with your salespeople, have the marketer in the room, have the CTO in the room, and look at the CRM, look at the stages the deals are in, and go through it deal by deal. Look at every deal and ask the team and the salesperson, like, tell me what the objections are. Tell me what we need to do to move it to the next stage of the deal. And do we have a next step? Just those three things. That's an example of pipeline discipline. That's where you don't leave it to the salespeople. That's where you figure out if the deals are real. And that's where you're also hearing, and your CTO is hearing, and your marketer is hearing what the objections are. And the salesperson should be able to talk to every deal. They should have a clear next step. They should have a clear understanding of what the objections are. They should be able to explain what the next step is going to be and when it's going to be and what stage it's in. If they can't, then you know you don't have a real salesperson. And this has worked every single time. Every single time I've worked with a founder and we put in the pipeline discipline, things went up. And every time we put in more marketing and more inbound leads started coming in, things went up. So you want both of those. Those are the two key things you want to really do to increase your win rates. As you start to increase win rates, let's just say you invest in marketing, you start getting more pipeline, you start getting into more conversations, you start to really develop your SaaS sales strategy, you start to have the pipeline discipline, your win rate's going to go up, you're going to start winning more deals. The second thing you really want to then figure out is, well, how do I just win more deals faster? Maybe it's taking you 30 days, maybe it's 60 days, maybe it's 90 days, maybe it's 180 days, who knows? So here are some key things you can do in your SaaS sales strategy to win deals faster. The first one is almost always the offer you make. And the offer is kind of a broad word, but really it could be the proposal, it's your pricing, and it's your incentives. There's so many different ways you can do this, and it really depends on the company, but structurally, you really want to think about like, what are we sending them and what's their incentive to actually take action now versus later, versus not doing anything at all. Part of this is circling back to the discovery call where you ask them like, hey, where's this in your priority list and what happens in your business if you don't do this? And pairing it back into the offer, saying like, hey, if you don't move on this, I want to make sure that you solve this. You said, it's this priority and this is what happens if you don't do it. So let's structure it around that. Part of it could be around pricing. You could give special pricing depending on where you are. Now, I'm not a big believer in discounts, but I am a big believer in having add-ons and no extra charge. It's like, I'll give you more for the same price. It's so much better than I'll discount at 20%. Sure. But you can still, like, there may be discounts, but at ToutApp, we didn't do any discounts for a very long time. We don't do discounts. Sorry. The price is the price. But I'm happy to work with you to figure out, maybe we can change the payment structure. Maybe we can change what you get, what we add on. You can play around with that to make the right offer. So that's one way to win deals faster. The second way is your pitch deck or your sales deck, if you will. And fundamentally, it's your messaging. So throughout all the touch points, you're going to have a sales deck. Some people talk about like, oh, I have no sales deck. I just like talking to them. It's like, yeah, your win rate shows that. Like the best reps that are actually winning deals, they follow a structured process and they have a sales deck, and it's not beneath them to use it. They use it in the right way. They use it as a weapon. And one of the key things in your sales stack is to introduce urgency. One of the things I work with founders is figuring out like, hey, what's your manifesto? This is your core strategic message. And a big part of the strategic message is to introduce the right urgency and the right impending doom so that we can actually use that both in the marketing, but also in the sales process. And so your pitch deck and your sales deck, when you look at it, should introduce urgency, not manufactured urgency or fake urgency, but real urgency on what the stakes are. And that's something that you can use to reintroduce when you're meeting people and you're trying to, if there's a group buying decision happening, to bring them together. Also on the discovery call, to introduce urgency, which then accelerates the rest of the sales process. So that's the second thing that you can be doing as well. Now you know how to develop an effective SaaS sales strategy. What you may not know is, TK, how do I actually structure my discovery call? Or how do I do the demo, and what are the key pieces that go into it for my offering, given my competitors and our differentiation? Or, we're getting to the demo, but then we're losing the deal. So something's broken in our offer, in our pricing, or we're just not negotiating and handling the objections in the right way. How do I structure that? You may also be wondering, like, I just don't have enough meetings to get a proper sales strategy in place because I'm not getting enough at-bats. So which means that you actually need to get pipeline up. So if you're dealing with each of these pieces, you really have two options. One is you can continue to scour YouTube, and I have 500 episodes. You can watch all of them, smash the like button on all of them, including this one. I encourage you to do that. You could do that. And there's a certain type of person that likes to do that. There's another type of person that is like, I just want the cheat codes. I want the step-by-step process, and I want to work with you to get to results faster. I want to fast track my results. So if you're the person that wants to fast track your results to building out your SaaS sales strategy and your overall go-to-market strategy so you can transform the growth of your business, then I encourage you to check out my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. This program helps you transform your go-to-market strategy, which includes your marketing for pipeline and your sales strategy. It helps you transform your go-to-market strategy from the one you have now to a well-defined and scalable strategy. The way we do this is there's 3 core pillars. The first one is we really flesh out your ideal customer profile. If you have one already, super awesome. You can just plug it into our tracker and you can actually run it through our AI validation tool and research tool. We have custom AI tools that helps you do all these pieces faster. And then you and I can look at it and make sure that it's properly set up. The second pillar we work on after your ICP is your messaging and your strategic narrative. We call this a manifesto. This manifesto feeds into your marketing and your sales process. It becomes your sales deck. It also becomes a lead magnet. It is used to really drive urgency and attract your ICP on a consistent basis. Once you have those two, then comes the third pillar. That's your marketing motions to generate pipeline and your sales motions to convert that pipeline on a consistent basis to real customers. And that includes your sales strategy. With these 3 pillars, you're able to transform your go-to-market strategy, your marketing strategy, and your sales strategy so that you can unlock growth. The biggest change that's happened in this program, we've given out trophies for founders that have been successful, and I've worked with hundreds of founders inside of this program. Inside of this program, we have built out custom AI tools. So for each step of the process, you get my step-by-step training that helps you understand exactly how to approach it, understand the core principles. These are very different than the YouTube videos. These are step-by-step on like, we're gonna build out your ICP. We're gonna build out your manifesto. Here's how to do it. But it also has AI tools baked across each part of the program for each pillar so that you can get to your results faster. And it has my coaching so that we can look at the answers together and we can look at the strategy and the plays and the data together and apply judgment and pattern recognition to make the right moves. Every company is different, and AI will give you certain results based on the core framework, but we're gonna look at it together so we apply the right context to make the right choices and drive the right execution. It's an incredible program. The better the fit, the better the results. So if you'd like to work together, just go to tkkader.com/GTM. tkkader.com/GTM. When you go to that link, and you can also follow the link in the description below, that way you don't have to type it in, you'll get this page. On this page, I'll outline everything that goes into the program. Typically, founders that join the program are able to transform their go-to-market strategy and start executing within the first 3 weeks of joining. Then we just collect data, we look at it together, and we iterate and we scale from there. And the thing that I've learned through the years of running this program is the better the fit, the better the results. So in order to join, all I ask is that you fill out a short application form. Inside the application, I'll just ask you a few questions on where you are with your business, what you're struggling with, and if I can help. If it sounds like I can help, we're off to the races. I'll send you the enrollment details and we'll get you into the program. I'll get you onboarded and we'll start working together right away. So just go to tkkader.com/GTM, tkkader.com/GTM. Also, if you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. Also smash that subscribe button with that bell icon. That button is smashable as well, so that you get notified every single time I drop an episode. Also, if you're the type that prefers to not get the step-by-step framework and my coaching to get fast-track your results, but you'd like to watch 500 episodes, you're more than welcome to do that as well. You should watch this video. Inside of this video, I outline the core framework that works today in 2026 for building out your go-to-market strategy. And remember, go-to-market is sales plus marketing, so you can go check that out, that episode out as well. Lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode or inside the Go-to-Market program. Take care, everybody.